Welcome to Flourishing Flame, from burning out to burning bright with therapist and coach Leah Brown. Are you a people helper or caregiver, feeling overwhelmed, distant, cynical, and crispy around the edges? Join me to defeat burnout by learning how to manage stress and create deep connective relationships with others so that you can pursue your calling, providing light and warmth to those around you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back for episode 25 of The Flourishing Flame. I wanted to tell you about Natalie. She is a junior high teacher, and she is a favorite of her students, well-liked by her peers in the administration, but feeling overwhelmed by the workload of school and home. She is such an amazing teacher, a supporter of her students, and a team player. Often, she was asked to help with additional projects or cover a class for another teacher. Since it was something that needed to be done, she would find a way to squeeze it into her calendar, if at all possible. At home, last-minute requests for help with projects or spending time with family members added to her stress buffet. Especially because she wanted to spend the time with her family and felt tension when she couldn't be available the way she wanted to be. You know the feeling of having more to do than you have time for. We can get to the point where it feels like we cannot cut anything out. We feel the pull of urgency and the stress and pressure it adds to our lives. It's at this point that we need to identify what's truly important. Our culture celebrates urgency, and many of us, including me, can be addicted to urgency. It feels amazing to ride into chaos and subjugate it. In their book, First Things First, Stephen R. Covey, Roger Merrill, and Rebecca Merrill write, "Urgency addiction is a self-destructive behavior that temporarily fills the void created by unmet needs. And instead of meeting these needs, the tools and approaches of time management often feed the addiction. They keep us focused on daily prioritization of the urgent." There are correlations between urgency addiction and any other type of addiction. This is an addiction, though, that is socially acceptable. When we have a lot of things going on and we look like we're managing them well, people will pat us on the back. Some of the things that cause our urgency are our own fault. Things like hitting our snooze button to get a little more sleep or overcommitting our schedules on accident because we miss something or because we're overly optimistic on what we think we can achieve. Other times, the urgency that we feel is from things totally outside of our control. Often the most important things are not urgent. They're the things that bring richness to our lives and make the good things, relationships, and experience great. Covey and the Merrills have in their book an activity matrix with 4 quadrants that help us to understand where different activities in our lives fit. If you could imagine this, or maybe if you're in a place where you can doodle on a piece of paper, you could put this down. But across the top are the things that are important. That's the top part of this. And then along the side, on the left side, you can write urgent. The top left quadrant is going to be urgent and important. These are the things that act on us. They can be the crises that are going on in our lives, a customer service situation, deadline-driven activities, and pressing problems. Those can be things like a crying child, a flat tire. I had one of those last night. A big project at work that has a due date attached to it, especially one that's coming up quick, or a health crisis. Quadrant 2 in this matrix is your top right corner that is important but not urgent. This is the quadrant of quality. It's the things that we act on. It is the quadrant that has preparation, prevention, values clarification. It's a quadrant that allows us to do planning and relationship building and actually relaxing and having true recreation. It's a quadrant of empowerment for ourselves and empowerment that we give to other people. Some examples would be a lot of the self-care activities fall into this category. Exercise falls into this category. Routine doctor's appointments and car maintenance. It's a category that gives us those relational interactions where we're thinking about spending time with our loved ones or doing the things that really build into the relationship. Professionally, it's completing a project with long range benefits. It's doing things that help us to be better in our job and training and different experiences that help us to grow our professional proficiencies. Quadrant 3, which is the left bottom quadrant, is for the things that are urgent but not important. These things can be interruptions sometimes. Sometimes they're meetings, phone calls, or requests to assist or to stand in for someone. This is called a phantom of quadrant 1. Often we're meeting other people's priorities and expectations, whether they're important or not. Often we think we're in quadrant 1 when we're really in quadrant 3. When we're in this quadrant and we have a lot of things in this quadrant, it can really increase our stress level because everything feels like it has to be done right away. When we hit quadrant 4, that's going to be the bottom right quadrant, that's where we have the things that are not important and not urgent. A lot of these are filler things. They tend to be what we escape to when life is feeling overwhelming. When we're overloading on the things that are urgent, it can cause us to move out of our flourishing zone into feeling that fight or flight activation or the freeze response that I discussed previously in different episodes. And there's a big overview of that flourishing zone in episode 8. But some examples of tasks that would fall into quadrant 4 would be the death scrolling of our phones or mindlessly watching hours of TV, or as Sam Laura Brown calls it, procrastinating, where we are focused on learning something new instead of just doing the thing we know we need to do. And there could also be cleaning out the junk drawer, or even shopping for things we don't need or sometimes even want. Living life in an urgent state all the time is not optimal. Whether it's all in quadrant 1 or quadrant 1 and 3, we end up being in a place that actually shrinks our flourishing zone over time and depletes our ability to deal with whatever's happening in your life, your ability to learn and be creative, your ability to cope with challenges. Some of you live much of your life in quadrant 1 due to your occupation, like my first responder friends, or due to your responsibilities and caretaking those who need a great deal of urgent assistance. Life situations can occur that cause things to shift in our quadrant significantly and unexpectedly. I work with someone who had an accident and then surgery that prevented him from being able to complete any task that required 2 hands for months. Talk about reprioritizing everything. Things like that can shift life in an instant. When we're aware of the quadrants, we're able to adjust more effectively when those things happen. So, what do we do with all of this? First, evaluate your life and schedule to decrease your quadrant 3 activities and increase your quadrant 2 activities, which in turn will decrease your quadrant 1 activities. In other words, working to reduce the things that are urgent or feel urgent, that are not important, will give you room to work on the activities that are important and not urgent. This time taken for self-care, relationship building, planning, and prevention can reduce the amount of activities that are urgent. Overall, fewer things will become urgent. You can also learn to proactively and strategically use urgency as a tool for motivation. You can take it from being an axe to more of an X-Acto knife. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach to this, but there are some basic principles that I can help you fine-tune for yourself to create a personalized strategy to maximize your ability to do the important things, both the urgent and not urgent, in your life to provide long-term stability, which is what I did for Natalie that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. We were able to take her values and priorities to create a matrix to know when to say yes and when to say no. I am excited to be working towards offering the Burnout Buster Blueprint online to help bridge the gap from the general to the personal and helping people discover their best path to identifying and maximizing their important quadrants and reducing their stress in the short term and the long term. I hope that this has been helpful for you and would love to get feedback on what is helpful and what you need some more information on so that I can continue to produce episodes that are beneficial for you and that really help you to reduce your stress and to be able to do the things you are called to do and love to do to the best of your ability. Until next time, take care. Thank you for joining me today. If this episode added kindling to your flame, please leave a review and pass it on to a friend who could use some encouragement. You can connect with me and find additional resources at leahlittlebrown.com. Now go forth and burn in all your brilliance.